I got a mad hair to start talking about the Rocky movies for some reason. It might be for the same reason you did, because while I was flipping through channels, there was nothing on, and I saw Rocky 3 on AMC.
That's what I was doing. I was working last weekend. AMC was doing a Rocky marathon, so I catch Rocky 3 and 4.
I tune in just as Mr. T is challenging him to a fight. Hey woman, you want to reel me?
Want to show you a real man.
You've been ducking me for too long, sucker.
Yeah, so I just kicked back a little bit and took a 3 hour break from work and watched Rocky 3 and 4.
Foo. So I just started today watching the Rocky movies, which was a bad move because I'd forgotten there's 6 of them.
No, 7 if you count Ricky 1.
I did not count that one. No.
I've got them all too. I've got that and the Rambo box sets.
Where do we start with this? Well, I guess we start with Rocky 1, but um I guess the story of the Rocky series is kind of the story with all the Stallone movies that, or at least all the ones that went to a series. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like you've got this Oscar-winning movie. I think it was 1976 Oscar-winning movie Rocky.
yeah.
Best screenplay, probably best actor, maybe best
He
supporting.
was he was nominated for best actor.
I think Mickey got best supporting.
Yeah,
Um,
I think he might have won for script. I think Sylvester might have won for script.
yeah,
Uh,
he won screenplay, and I
yeah.
think it won best picture, which
It
was, I forget what it won over. I think it won over Taxi Driver,
it won
which
over
was.
that and Network. 1976. Yeah, it won over Network and Taxi Driver.
Mm. But when it comes to Rocky, it's weird because I love the series. I love almost all the movies in the series, but I can't even deny that they go down in quality fairly sharply after the first one, to the point where the first movie is almost not in the same continuity as the other flicks. Because I mean, their goals are different, the style is different, and
Yeah,
it's rather like First Blood in that regard.
it is. I mean, I would put it pretty close in terms of tone. The first movie, I would still put it relatively close there with the second one and even the sixth one. Um, to me, the sixth one has always been a really good follow up to the first two movies because it's less campy and
Well,
dated.
they become cartoonish.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, exactly. And even, and in terms of Rocky Four, a little bit dated, but that's kind of that
Yeah,
one's charm.
yeah, and rather like the Rambo films, the first one actually has kind of an important story to it. You know, it's really not about what you think it's about, because Rocky is not really about the boxing,
Yeah.
whereas it becomes about the boxing later, and Rambo is not really about killing people as it becomes later.
Oh
And
yeah.
and what's funny is Stallone has revisited uh, both of these series and kind of done the same thing. And people make jokes about it. They call the sixth movie, Rocky Balboa, and they were joking. They're going to call it John Rambo. Well, what's funny is I'm watching AMC again, and they showed like an extended cut of the newest Rambo movie.
On AMC they showed an extended cut of the new Rambo.
Yeah, yeah. And
They
it
show it on.
what killed me was the title of the extended cut is John Rambo.
Oh, is it really? I didn't know he.
Yeah,
I mean, I knew that was what he wanted to call it at first, but then shortened it to. I didn't know there was actually a version of it out there that calls it John Rambo.
yeah. I was stunned by that. I was flipping through, and I see this movie start playing, and it says John Rambo.
Hmm.
And it's still, if you buy the Blu-ray, there's an extended edition Blu-ray. It still says Rambo on the
Yeah.
cover, but in the movie it says John Rambo. I was like, what the fuck?
Well, when he revisits Rhinestone, he'll have to call that by his character's name.
I don't even. Well, you got to revisit Over the Top before you revisit Rhinestone.
Hawk.
Hawk. What was it? I think it's John Hawk.
John Hawk.
Or is it Hawks? I don't remember.
He can revisit Demolition Man and call it Spartan.
John Spartan. There's a lot of Johns or Cobra and shit. We got to stop or my mom will shoot.
Crap, we can't get Estelle Getty back.
I saw Stop or my mom will shoot in the fucking theater, man.
Dude, so did I. I saw it in the theater. I saw it in the theater twice. And
Twice.
it wasn't because I wanted to see it. It was because well, my folks were divorced, so growing up, sometimes I would have to go see stuff twice because my dad would want to see something, and then I'd be
No.
staying with my mom, and she'd want to see something. So I saw that movie twice in the goddamn theater. What was another? I saw Caddyshack 2 twice in the theater for that reason.
Ugh. Oh God.
That was the worst
Um,
part of the divorce.
seeing Caddyshack 2 twice.
Yeah, that divorce really fucked me over.
I can imagine. Um. Anyway, um, I guess when it comes to the first movie, what do you talk about? You talk about really, it's
Well, with the first movie, I mean, a lot of things I hear people talk about the first movie is that it's kind of the beginning of what nowadays is considered to be the standard underdog sports movie.
mhm.
Um, and I actually know a lot of people who have only seen Rocky recently and didn't like it because other movies kind of sort of
Well,
copied the Rocky formula after that.
they don't like it because it's subtle,
Yeah,
um, and it follows that formula up to a point, and that point is that
that it's an underdog
Rocky.
story.
No, well, it's an underdog story, yeah, but he his stated goal. At no point in this movie does he actually think he's going to win.
Oh yeah.
In fact, his stated goal is to simply go the distance. He knows he's going to lose.
Uh-huh.
He just wants to go the distance, and that's at the heart of the story, where it's made clear at every point in this movie that Apollo Creed, the Count of Monte Fisto, is way out of Rocky's league.
Yeah.
He's a professional heavyweight boxer. He's the world champion, and he is in absurdly good shape.
Yeah.
And Rocky is essentially a bum. In fact,
You bum.
he's he's fighting in shitty gyms. He is really not that large
You
in
beat
in
Spider
terms.
Rico.
He beat Spider Rico. Yeah, I think he got headbutted and it was disqualified. I don't know. Um,
Yeah.
but he's not that large. He's pretty stupid, and the only thing he's got is a lot of heart.
Yeah.
He's got that indomitable spirit, but he really doesn't. He doesn't have strength, size, or even really any boxing technique. Um, so he's going there just because he wants to go the distance and to kind of weather whatever this guy can throw at him, just to prove that for one day he can stand up to this guy.
Yeah. Hmm.
He can. Basically at the end of Highlander 2, he summons up his whole life in one moment and he achieves something glorious. Um,
Adrian, come on.
and so, of course, big time spoilers, I know. He goes the distance with Apollo Creed, and this is where you can really tell this movie never intended to have a sequel. It was never made to have a sequel in mind, because I think one of the last words is spoken in this movie is Apollo goes, "Ain't gonna be no rematch. Ain't gonna be no rematch," and Rocky says, "I don't want one."
Yeah, it's like Dirty Harry throwing his badge in the water at the beginning of the first Dirty Harry. Yeah, you're right. It doesn't really it doesn't really set itself up for. I mean, yeah, he loses in it, but he's not really. He's more in that scene. It comes across like I don't even know if he heard the person say that he lost, that Apollo Creed won, because I mean in that sequence people are rushing into the ring and he's yelling for Adrian. Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I think the whole point of that movie is that well, first it's really a love story between him and Adrian, and in fact
Yeah.
that takes up the majority of the running time.
Uh-huh.
But really, the point of the movie is that Rocky is not trying to win the fight. He's trying to kind of prove a point to himself
Yeah.
that Mickey tells him the whole fight that he's a bum. He's wasted his opportunities and he's basically squandered his gifts up to
Hmm.
this point, and he's just trying to prove that he can make something of himself.
Yeah.
This is his one big chance at kind of glory and a pretty heavy purse for at least competing in the fight.
Yeah.
Um, which leads us to Rocky 2, in which he gets his rematch.
Yeah,
Well, I actually think they do a rather good job in building up why Apollo wants the rematch.
that's one of the things that I really like about the second movie is the second movie does a really good job of showing how the results of the first movie, the events of the first movie, has affected both of these characters, Apollo Creed and Rocky Balboa, both in two different ways. You've got Rocky, who is getting commercial deals and such in the movie. You know, he gets married, he has a kid in the second movie, and then you have Apollo, who is basically being called a loser.
Yeah.
People calling him out, saying that he lost that fight.
Well, he got humiliated because he went into that fight not taking it seriously
Yeah,
because he's essentially Muhammad Ali. He's basically an analog for Muhammad Ali,
yeah,
and he goes in there treating Rocky like a clown. And when he does that, I think he gets knocked down in the early rounds,
uh
which
huh,
fucking pisses him off. But all of a sudden, this guy would just not go down, and
yeah,
it was just kind of this whole. It was just absolutely murdering this guy in the face with punches.
yeah.
Um, and he was like he just kind of shambled on like a zombie and survived the fight, which nobody had done up to that point. Nobody had gone the distance with Apollo,
How many
which
rounds did that go in the first movie? Oh
it
God,
was 15 rounds.
that's right. Yeah.
So that embarrassed Apollo because people were like, he did something none of your other contenders did. He went 15 rounds with you, and it was looking like he was actually kind of coming close to winning that fight. If it had gone on much longer, God forbid, but he had hurt Apollo quite badly at the end of that fight.
Uh huh.
Um, so Apollo, his pride, that's the great. I actually love Apollo's character arc in these movies because you can tell
Yeah.
he's a very prideful champion. I mean, he treats Rocky like a clown at first, but he respects the shit out of the guy for wanting it so bad.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. And that completely makes the events in part what Apollo does in part 3 believable because I mean, yeah, they are opponents in the first two movies, but it was never a Rocky Clubber Lang situation.
yeah, so Apollo gets in the hospital and he's like he wants to prove that he's the best.
Yeah.
He can't believe this guy went to this. He wants to knock this guy out. He wants to show him once and for all. He wants to prove his critics wrong. He can beat anybody. And
Hmm.
he didn't. He went the distance with Rocky. He won the fight, but he didn't beat him. And
Yeah.
I thought that was the genius part of that characterization because I never would have thought of that. Not really.
Hmm.
Um, but here's the funny thing. Rocky doesn't want the rematch.
Yeah.
He in fact in the hospital he says I'm officially retired. Get used to me saying that, by the way, because fucking Rocky retires in every goddamn movie.
He retires, and also isn't there like in every movie isn't there worries that he's got brain like one more fight
Yes.
will give him brain damage.
Yeah, and I was going to get to that because in this movie, I actually forget what it is. It's not brain damage, but the doctor pulls him aside and he's like, "You've got eye damage. You've got like a detached retina
That's
or
it.
something
That's
like
it.
that." And he's like, "If you get hit in the head anymore, you could go blind."
Yeah.
And Rocky's like, "Oh, Jesus Christ, I'm gonna do that. I don't want to hurt. I gotta retire." And so Apollo, like that makes it worse because he won't get to fight with Rocky anymore, and he's like, I gotta launch a smear campaign on television.
Is Frank Stallone available?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, another thing that was funny was, this is where I really started not to like the Rocky character. Uh, this is why I actually don't like. I mean, I like the movies, but the characterization of Rocky, he's an idiot.
And one thing I was going to bring that up too. It's funny how as the movies go on, how sometimes he's portrayed as an idiot and sometimes he's not. The second one's got that scene with the are you interested in condos?
No,
Never
he isn't condo. Yes, he goes condos. I don't use them.
never used any. Your girlfriend's
And I'm like,
retired at
oh
Rock. Why
dear
don't you take
lord.
her to the zoo? I'll take her to the zoo. But yeah. You're right. Like in the second one, it's
Well,
it's
okay, he gets like $37,000 from the fight, which is
yeah,
like the most money he's ever seen in his life.
yeah.
And so the first thing he fucking does is he turns around and buys a really expensive car.
And he buys that jacket too, doesn't he?
Yeah, and he
Yeah.
buys a really fancy jacket.
He's
And
got the
Adrian's
tight.
like, Adrian's like, we could have bought a house, or because I think she's pregnant in this movie,
She
Adrian.
is. Yeah.
He's like, maybe we could have like fixed up the baby's room or put it towards a college fund. And Rocky's like, Rock's like, well, you don't like the car? It's got an automatic transmission. I'm like, what the fuck is it? Like Rock, he blows all his money like immediately.
It was 1979, you know? Fast cars, fancy jackets. That was the
Um,
priorities, man.
yeah, but is this the one also where he starts getting like endorsement deals?
The second one is the one where he starts doing commercials and
Yeah, so he's like,
he can't
I
read the
forget.
cue cards right.
Yeah, because he can't read.
Yeah.
Like
What's for
I
me?
think what commercial is it? He's in like a boxer ring. He's made to look like he's beat up. Is it like toothpaste or something like that?
Yeah, yeah. Crap, what the hell were they selling in that? But you're right. They put like fake bruises and like swells on his face.
It's something like he's like, when a real man sweats, you need this deodorant, man. And like, but he can't. He can't. Oh, it's a deodorant. I was right. Okay, so but he can't use like when a real man sweats, you have to get de- degree deodorant, and like the director's getting all pissed off, and the director is this really stereotypical like beret wearing.
Cut! Cut! God
God
damn it!
damn it, this guy can't act.
He
And
can't read the fucking cue cards.
what is with this guy? You've been hitting the head too many times. Like, hey, I'm just as God made me, you know. Like, I don't read too good. And but yeah, so the guy's like, he's like, they simplify the cue cards, and he still can't read the cue cards. And then so like, I think eventually they just kind of have him stand mute while
Yeah.
somebody else like holds up. Like I don't even know what they.
I think 2 is probably the one that portrays him the dumbest. And I like 2. I really like 2 a lot. But whenever I think of moments in the Rocky series where he's portrayed as not a smart guy, I think of a lot of scenes from 2. I think of the condom scene,
Mhm.
the commercial endorsements, what you just said, like what he's everything he's spending his money on, which is a trait they gave to Paulie in the later movies.
Yeah. So and again, Rocky 2 is one of those movies where I can enjoy it on kind of a ironic level, but it basically ruins the whole message of the first movie, and it's really, really implausible.
Because he wins at the end of
He
it.
wins
Yeah.
because really okay. And here's the other thing. This is where again where I really started to hate Rocky was he finally agrees that he's gonna rematch Apollo mainly because he needs the money.
Yeah.
Because like I think Adrian is having complications with the pregnancy and he's broke
Yeah, yeah.
and so he needs the money, but he really doesn't feel like training.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like his heart's not in it. He doesn't want to train, and Mickey's like going crazy
Yeah.
trying to get him to train, and I don't know, you guys are gonna kill me, Mick, and like and he just and on the other hand, Apollo is training like a beast.
Yeah.
Like I'm not even kidding. Like he trains like nuts, like a fucking
That
maniac.
would be something if the
Um,
movie was from Apollo's point of view.
So if you watch this movie, there's this really extended scene where he's like, "Oh, Balboa's gonna give me my rematch. I'm gonna train like a fucking maniac." And so like he gets in that gym, he is training like an animal, man.
Yeah.
And like Rocky, you see him kind of half-heartedly throwing swats at a speed bag and kind of half-heartedly jogging. There's no glorious music, and
Mm.
by this point, like you get like a 5-6 week build up to a fight. Apollo should murder this guy,
At this point, yeah. it,
murder him dead.
it also sort of once Rocky does finally start training in it. I really like it because it's where because in each movie, at least up until like at least in the first 4, the training montages when Rocky actually starts training, like legitimately training in this, just get bigger and bigger and bigger as at least the first 4 movies go on. The
Yeah.
second one with all the people in his around in his area jogging with him, and
Kids, all the kids.
all the kids jogging with him. The second one's the one where he chases the chicken around, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
when he finally gets when he gets serious because I think she goes into a coma because of the pregnancy, and she
yeah.
finally comes out and she's like, "You got to win, Rocky," and he's like, "Okay, I'll do it now." And so like he gets
I brought you
serious.
this chicken.
Yeah. So like he gets serious and finally he starts training. I think he's got like a week, maybe 2 weeks to train
Yeah.
when he finally starts getting serious. But still, like I started rooting for Apollo. I really did
Hmm. I don't know
because
if I ever
Rocky.
did that. I don't know if I ever necessarily. You know the thing about the second one is, as much as I like the second one is one that I've probably seen the least amount of times. As much as I do really like the movie, even like uh, it's probably because the other ones got so campier that a lot of the other sequels have a little bit more
Mm,
rewatchability for me.
mm.
Um, but So I don't know if I ever really had that in my head that I was rooting for Apollo, but Apollo was always a character that I loved, like I do the other characters in the movie.
Well, I guess the reason I liked him so much was because he stopped being an antagonist. In fact, he was never really a traditional antagonist in the
No,
sense
not at all.
you wanted Rocky to win, I
Yeah,
guess, but you
but
didn't were like
Apollo
you
was
weren't like
never a villain.
no, you weren't like I hate Apollo. That guy's an asshole.
Yeah,
Because like even when he wants a rematch, he wants it for basically the perfect reason. He's like, I want to prove that I'm better. I want to prove that I'm the best. And he's prideful, yeah, but he's not a bad guy.
yeah. I mean,
And so
anyone in that situation would want to do the same thing.
and even when he's got the fight won, they have this fight. It's another 15-round fight, and
Yeah,
Apollo is kicking his ass. He's ahead on points. He's won virtually like every round.
yeah,
He's beat up, but he's won like every round. And so his corner is telling him in the last round, all you got to do is stay away from the guy and you'll win. You've won. All you got to do is just kind of stall for a little while, stall for 3 minutes.
yeah,
You'll win on points. He's like, I gotta beat him. I gotta knock him out. And so like he goes out there going for the knockout and he loses.
yeah,
So I was kind of like, wow, this guy is really like a fighting champion. He's doing that. He's like amazing. Nobody, like no other fighter would do this. So every
yeah,
other fighter would be like really content just to take the decision.
yeah.
And from the beginning, he was taking this fight seriously. He was trained like crazy. And Rocky, on the other hand, is playing with himself this whole time. His heart's not in it. He's really morose. He doesn't want to fight.
Uh
And
huh.
we've seen him squander his money. We know that success kind of gets to his head,
Yeah.
and he's not really. I kind of stopped rooting for the guy because he's like, even if he wins, we've seen what he does out of the ring with his money. He's kind of a
Well,
loser. It kind
yeah,
of validated my opinion that he's a loser.
and also the second one is not that the other I mean the other sequels are like this too, but by the time the other sequels come around, I mean you are kind of used to it. But the second one, it doesn't have the fight at least doesn't have quite as much suspense in the Rocky's gonna win in the second
Mm,
one. You know he's not gonna lose again. It's the second movie. He's a rematch. He's gonna win in this one.
yeah,
Um, even still, it is an emotional fight. Like especially at the end when they both fall down and they're both climbing back up, and Adrian's watching it from home and everything. It's a great scene, but the first one has that suspense where in seeing it for the first time, especially in '76 when it first came out, um, you don't know if he's gonna win or lose in it.
well, the first one,
That's
no,
what I
but the
mean.
second one, pretty much everyone assumed.
That's what I mean. The first one you don't know. That's what I mean. The first one you don't know if he's gonna win or lose in it. The second one you know he's gonna win.
Yeah. What else to say about the second one? I wonder. I think I kind of killed that one. The third one, on the other hand, is where I really start to enjoy this one, where it just gets kind of silly.
Oh yeah, Thunder Lips.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is where we start to get to the montage of Rocky being a fighting champion,
Yeah.
where he's beating a lot of guys. I think he has like 10 title defenses.
Uh huh.
We see this in montage, to the point where I think they're kind of making the point like his career's kind of a joke. Where okay, there's a charity fight scene where Rocky Balboa is put in the ring with Hulk Hogan, but he's
Thunder
not named
Lips
Hulk
is
Hogan.
here.
Hulk Hogan actually plays a psychotic pro wrestler bad guy in like it's basically a mixed martial arts fight in the sense it's not a boxing fight,
Yeah.
but Hulk Hogan plays a dude named Thunder Lips.
In the flesh, baby.
um, so there's this, but like almost like a 5-10 minute scene where Hulk Hogan is like body slamming and suplexing Rocky Balboa.
He's killing him.
Oh, he's killing him. Yeah, he gorilla presses him over his head and
He chucks him in the audience.
he throws him in the audience and like
Catch me!
um catch me. Like, what is it? Paulie is hitting him in the back with a chair,
Yeah.
and Thunderlips is like, "You gonna die, little man," and
Holy
and so
crap!
like Rocky.
Is this the climatic fight in the movie? This is a short movie.
So I mean, like, you can't possibly watch this scene where Paulie is hitting Hulk Hogan with a chair and Rocky's getting suplexed and Rocky's whipping his gloves off and punching Hulk Hogan in the face. And by the way, Hulk Hogan outweighs this motherfucker like by 150 pounds.
Yeah. Why'd you get so
He's
nuts out there?
what is it? It's the name of the game.
That's the
Like,
name of the game, baby. The ultimate
um,
male versus the ultimate meatball.
and so you're like, there's no way you can watch this scene and not just go like, this is a completely different series.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't watch Rocky 1 and then go to Rocky 3 and be like, yeah, the heart's still in this one. Because Rocky has essentially become kind of like a superhero, like basically indestructible.
Yeah. It's
Um,
still. I would still. I say it's got element. The third one's got elements in it that makes it a mixture of high camp, like the fourth one, but still with a little bit more heart in it than certainly the fourth one had. When you get the scenes with Apollo and Rocky together, like their scenes together in the movie,
yeah, yeah.
uh,
Go ahead.
brings it down a little more than the previous sequence of him fighting Thunderlips and all the Mr. T stuff. I'm gonna crucify him real bad.
Real bad. I can't remember. Did they ever mention the eye problem or brain damage in the third movie? I don't think they ever bring it up again.
No, I think the closest it comes is when Rocky is talking to Mick, and he said, "I can beat this guy," and Mick is
You
saying like,
can't beat him, Rock.
"Can't beat him, Rock. That first fight
He's
should
a
have
wrecking
killed you."
machine.
Like when he's telling him that he put uh lesser fighters in the ring with him because the
Yeah,
fight with the
he put him up against basically tomato cans, like
yeah, I think that's the closest the third movie comes to like to that without actually saying like anything about the detached retina and brain damage and such.
Somebody in the chat room says Paulie mentions they used the money to fix his eye. I see.
You get
Science.
that
Okay.
jacket? We're gonna fix my eye.
I was like, okay, well, I could fix my eyeball anytime I want. This jacket's awesome.
This jacket's on sale.
This Neiman Marcus said there was only one of these. Yeah, I think the line was like, Mick goes, they were good fighters, but they weren't killers like this guy.
They weren't killers. Um,
It's killer. This guy, he's hungry. You ain't been hungry for years.
I think one thing I like about the third one is I like how a lot of time has passed between the second one and the third one, and a lot of the others kind of pick up right where the other one leaves off, which opens up huge continuity errors, but that's another thing. But um, the third one, I like the opening montage a lot in the third one. I like the fact that the third one doesn't pick up right where the second one leaves off.
Mm-hmm.
That you see him, he's a lot wealthier now, and again, he's on the verge of quote unquote
Yeah, of
retirement.
course. He basically no. That's the scene where he um he goes to the steps where the like the courthouse steps where he did
Hmm.
that the pose. He gets up there and he's gonna retire as champion. He goes
Yeah,
up. He's like, I've been fighting for years, and I think it's time I announce my retirement.
yeah.
And then that's when Mr. T goes, "Hey, Balboa, you!" And
Whoop out,
and
boy!
he's
You
like,
hear that, old man?
yeah, old man, you've been ducking me for too long, sucker. And like, um, and Rocky's still like, hey, look, I got no problem with you. Who are you? And he's like, I'm Cubba Lang. Hey, woman.
Why don't you come over here and I'll show you a real man?
And so like Adrian's all scared to death of this big black guy. Um, and but that's the only time Rocky wants to fight him is when he starts like hitting on Adrian. He's like, I'll fight you anywhere you want.
He he goes from 0 to 10 quick.
Oh yeah, he's like, I will fucking kill you. Ah!
Damn it, Mick, I can beat this guy.
Yeah, and Mick doesn't want him to fight, so he's like, so Mick I think refuses to train him,
Mm-hmm.
and he finally talks Mick into training him, but Rocky doesn't want to train
Yeah.
because he doesn't take Clubber Lang seriously. So it's a really frustrating scene for me because you see Clubber Lang, who's a fucking beast.
Yeah.
Like you see him in montage, you see Clubber Lang killing people.
Yeah.
Like he's fighting his way up the ranks. You can tell he's just brutalizing people. He's training like crazy.
Yeah.
And Rocky, he rents a hall out, which is basically like a big party. he's
Yeah.
got like
Yeah.
he's got like groupies, and he is literally like taking half-hearted swipes at a speed bag, but he's mainly just kind of he's kind of taking photos.
Yeah.
Like women are coming up to him, and like he's just kind of like, you like me a fight, I do this, let's take a photo. And like his hair in this movie is awesome.
Oh my God, yes it is. That
He's got
awesome.
this huge like 3-inch tall like pompadour.
Yeah, pop really pop. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It really Dion and the Belmonts kind of thing.
So like he's got this awesome hair. He's wearing suits. He's
Yeah.
taking photos. He's not training at all. So of course Clubber Lang whoops his ass.
And I kind of like it was certainly dumb of Rocky in not in not correctly preparing to go beat this guy. But at the same time, like I kind of I kind of get Rocky being like I have to beat this guy because Clubber Lang, the killer that he is a fucking clown.
Well, you look at the stuff he's wearing. He's got the all that he's wearing all his gold chains and
The
like
feathered earring and
so he is kind of like this big all talk guy, but all you get like Mick's watching his tapes. You can see Mickey watching the tapes and being like, "Oh my god, this guy is gonna fucking destroy him."
that's
And
one thing Rocky should have at least done is looking at the fucking tapes.
because well it kind of I guess it parallels maybe like Apollo Creed not taking Rocky seriously at the beginning and
Yeah,
not understanding that Clubber Lang is just a killer.
yeah.
um,
I
so I
see. I
guess
see.
maybe
I can
that
see that. Yeah.
I guess maybe that makes sense.
Mhm.
But it's only like I think they foreshadow this whole movie like Mick is having heart problems, especially during the
Yes.
Thunderlips fight. He's like having a heart attack. um, and
What
so during the fight they wheel Mick away, but they don't take him to a hospital. Like they just take him kind of backstage into the locker room
they
where
put
he's
it. They
like,
put a jacket on him.
yeah, they put a jacket on him. And I'm like, there's paramedics all over these fucking buildings. We couldn't get a paramedic or an ambulance to take Mickey to the hospital. I mean, Jesus Christ! There's like a 5-minute scene where he's dying in the locker room, and Rocky's like, "I didn't want you to die, Mick," and
Call a fucking ambulance.
and
Ambulance in here.
Mick's like, "How'd it go?" And Rocky lies to him. He's like, "I won by knockout in like the second round." And like,
Knockout second round. I gotta cancel. I gotta stop the fight. Don't you stop this fight. And
it
that's
was
one thing.
well acted.
That's one thing Jillian said. We were watching. She was watching it with me the other day. Um, she's really huge into the Rocky movies too, and we're watching it the other day, and it's the Thunder Lips scene. It's the Thunder Lips scene. The Thunder Lips scene is the first scene where it shows Mick starting to have a problem with his heart,
Uh,
and so she's sitting there and goes, "So, am I to take it that they killed Mick with all their
yeah,
shenanigans,
yeah.
with all their fucking boxing versus wrestling shenanigans?"
Well, it's like I think Mick just can't like the embarrassment kills him. Like he's like, "Oh my god,
Yeah.
he's in a ring with Hulk Hogan. Oh Jesus, I can't take it. It's the big one."
But when this movie gets really um to me really much in that it's a good follow up, I think, to the other two, is like I said, when Apollo comes back
Yeah,
and trains him. When we
yeah.
fought, you had the eye
So
of the tiger, man, the edge.
Stallion, you need the eye of the tiger. You don't have it. You need to be like a
Way to get
predator
it back
stallion.
is to go back to the beginning. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's like, oh well, I don't know. Yeah. He's like, your footwork sucks, stallion. You gotta move in there like you're dancing. And but yeah, this is where the movie gets really awesome
Yeah,
because the second half of the movie is the probably to me the best and gayest training montage of
it's
the series.
it's pretty awesome.
So like Apollo takes him to his gym, which is essentially like where all the black people train.
Yeah. Ugh,
And so
you
the
sure
big
we should be
emphasis
here?
this is they're like they put Rocky in a pool because they want to give him endurance and they want to teach him how to move.
Yeah.
They need to teach him footwork, and so they start. Paulie is really the guy who has a problem with this because they start playing like not rap, but kind of like hip hop music. Not even really hip hop, but kind of like R&B music, kind of very upbeat.
Yeah.
And so Paulie is like he's like shitting bricks over there. He's like, "You're gonna teach Rock how to fight like a black man," and he's like,
What's going on here?
oh no, I think he calls it like jungle music.
Yeah.
He's like, Rocco, you can't be training to this jungle music. These tar babies are gonna kill you. And I'm like, oh my god, Paulie, shut the fuck up.
It's okay. He takes a lifetime to get used to. Yeah, well, I ain't got a lifetime.
So like, Paulie is completely being racist, this
Yeah.
whole time, and Rocky's having a good time. Like he's kind of embarrassed. Like he's basically learning how to dance from
Yeah.
Apollo. Um, so Apollo, the entire series, Apollo was a fucking douchebag. Um,
Y-
well, I think in the first movie he throws a turkey out the window, which I still like to reference.
Yeah.
He's like, "You want a turkey? Go eat it in
You
the
want
alley." And
turkey? Hey, Polly, come on. That's your sister.
he's like, "She drives me nuts, Rocco." And like, but yeah, it's this scene where he trains with Apollo is ridiculous.
Yeah. The
But
jogging.
it's awesome because it starts off with them doing like it starts out they tell a story with this montage. So they're on the beach
Yeah.
and they're running, and Apollo is way faster than this dude. And so but the by the end of this they're playing Eye of the Tiger for the first time,
Yeah.
which was even bigger than Gotta Fly Now,
Yeah.
because Gotta Fly Now was huge. But when Rocky 3 came out, that fucking montage
Oh yeah.
made Survivor. You could not turn on the radio without hearing Eye of the Tiger.
Oh no,
Sometimes
not
when
at
it was
all.
done, the DJ would be like, "That was Eye of the Tiger by Survivor," and just because it's so fucking awesome, here it is again. And like,
You're right.
um, so by the end of this, Rocky actually beats Carl Weathers in a foot race on the beach.
And they lovingly embrace.
They Carl Weathers is wearing like a shirt that exposes his midriff.
Hmm.
They're all both glistening with sweat. They run in and they embrace each other. Rocky lifts Carl Weathers up in his arms in slow motion, and the biggest smiles you ever seen. And you just expect him to grab Carl Weathers by the afro and just auger his tongue into his mouth and just be like, "I love you, Apollo."
And somebody made the point too that it's a really extreme reaction for jogging.
Oh yeah,
Like,
he's
was
like,
this?
"Hey, it's so glorious. We jogged."
And his hair is magnificent again in this
Uh-huh.
scene. It moves around a little bit, but all kind of in one piece, you know?
It's all hairsprayed in one wonderful coif.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh. Like he's got like an early 80s, late 70s Pacino thing going on in this movie.
uh, but yeah, it really is. I mean, I'm not saying it because I'm not making it up. This is really a really homoerotic training montage. And there's another thing where like Apollo keeps referencing this. He's like, when you win the title back, Stallion, you know you owe me something.
What
And
favor?
yeah, he's like, "You owe me a favor, Stallion." And you keep expecting, like, when he wins the title back, like Apollo is gonna be like, "Okay, Stallion, now it's time. Bend over." And
I already did a
I'm
porno.
like, you really do think that's what's coming?
Yeah.
Like,
All right,
every,
Stallion, start sucking.
yeah, I know. He's like, "All right, Stallion, on your knees."
Uh-uh.
I don't know, Apollo. It's like, you owe me the favor.
I'm glad Mick isn't here to see this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, oh yeah. Oh,
Use the hand. Work the shaft, Stallion.
I don't know if this was worth it. I already did a porno. I want you to be velvet mouthed on my shank of love. You know
Don't
what?
let me get loose, Stallion. Don't let me get loose.
You know what? Honestly, one of my favorite things, some of my favorite moments in Rocky 3 are the the tiny moments between Apollo and Clubber Lang.
I don't remember what happens.
There are like two scenes where Apollo and Clubber Lang have together. It's at the beginning of the first fight with Rocky and Clubber Lang, and Apollo comes out there to like announce the fight or to
I think he's like he's doing press conferences and he's kind of talking for Rocky because Rocky can't talk.
yeah, and so he kind of goes up there to say something to Clubber Lang, and he's, "You get away from me, Creed. You old school, just old sucker." And then Creed just stares him down, doesn't say a word, just looks at him, goes over to Rocky and says like, "Drop this meatball" or something
Yeah,
like that. And then later on, the same thing happens when they fight again. He yells something to Creed, and Creed just turns around, and then Clubber Lang just shoves him in the back. Like, "Don't you
yeah.
turn your back on me, Creed."
Because honestly, I love Carl Weathers so much in these movies.
Oh, me too.
He is he really does. He is the most pimp motherfucker.
Yeah.
I forget the names he's given. I remember Count of Monte Fisto, but he's got like six nicknames. Like
Oh,
when they're announcing him in Rocky Four,
yeah.
when he does that big. Well, I'll talk about it later, but he has this huge elaborate introduction, and he comes out with the big hat, um, the red, white, and blue robe, and the shorts, and
Yeah.
shit like that. I should check out more Carl Weathers movies because
Like an Action Jackson.
Action Jackson, hell yeah.
Fuck, I miss
Um,
Carl Weathers.
oh, so do I. Predator, man,
Oh,
fucking
fuck yeah.
Dylan.
Dylan, you son of a bitch.
What's the matter? CIA got you pushing too many pencils. But yeah,
Classic.
this is the last I'll say on it. But like, um, it really is hard to ignore the homoeroticism between Rocky and Apollo. It's not something I'm making up.
No, it's not at all. And you know, the 80s were awesome for homoeroticism. They just were. The 80s were great for that kind of stuff. Whether it's Top Gun, Rocky 3, Elm Street 2, you
Yeah.
know, um there was some there was some great shit like that back then. So much so that, I mean, I watch so many 80s movies. I mean, it's my favorite fucking decade, but I watch so many 80s movies that when something really really homoerotic like that happens, it just kind of seems normal to me
Well,
because
it stands right up there. It really it stands up there with the gayest scenes I've ever seen with that and the volleyball scene in Top Gun.
I'm hanging out with the boys.
Yeah, oh, yeah. And so it's I guess I'm done with that. But the fight scene is where I really start to laugh in this movie
Yeah.
because whereas before the fighting was very, it was kind of cinematic and these guys were taking kind of ridiculous shots at each other. In Rocky 3, these dudes lay fucking pile driver shots on each other that would kill people.
And not only that, but the trash talking they do too.
Yeah.
The absolute infighting trash talking they do. Where Rocky is like, "Come on, you ain't so bad. My mother can hit harder than you."
I think Clubber goes in the ring and he's like I don't hate Rocky Balboa. but I pity the fool. I think that was the first time he ever said pity the fool,
I think so.
by the way. And
Uh,
they go, Clubber, Clubber, what's your prediction? He goes, prediction? Pain. And I'm like,
pain.
awesome.
Oh, Jesus Christ. He might lose this one too.
I know. And because he's so much bigger than Stallone.
And he's hitting he really I this is one thing I noticed too when I was watching it the other day. Well, honestly, yeah, what you just said. The hard hits that he's fucking taking in this movie from Clubber Lang are
Well,
a
yeah,
lot more. Maybe I mean it could be, of course, the sound effects are a lot harder, but Jesus Christ, it's like a
yeah.
ton of fucking bricks compared to the first movie.
Oh yeah, well even the second movie, it was kind of silly in the second movie too, but here more than others, it really is. They start taking shots where like imagine if I grabbed you by the chin,
Yeah,
held you up, reached back my fist as far as it would go, spin my fist around 3 times to wind up momentum,
yeah,
and then hit you so hard that I fell forward.
yeah.
Like just murder shots.
He's getting killed out there. Nah, he ain't getting
He's getting
killed.
angry.
He's getting angry. He's getting mad.
Yeah, just watch Rocky 3 and watch these fucking punches they lay into each other.
Yeah.
This is impossible. Like what's going on here?
And I know that sometime there was a couple of them where Stallone, was it this one or was it four? I think it might have been four, where he actually wanted him to hit him and he
Mhm.
did, and it put him in the hospital.
Who was it?
It was I think that was four actually, where he did hit him, and then no, he hit him in the chest, and then the next day he started having chest pains and had to go to the hospital because of how
Oh,
hard like his ribs smacked against his heart.
oh, um, but this is well. And what's funny is this is where you really start to get a sense of Rocky's ultimate strategy
Yeah.
because he has one. He
Yeah.
has a strategy. It's that he's going to tire Clubber Lang out by allowing him to beat the shit out of him for 10
Oh
rounds.
yeah. Get out of there, Rock.
That's it. I mean, he really does just let Clubber Lang wail on the motherfucker
Oh yeah.
until he literally gets tired beating Rocky's ass. Now
Yeah, jive
you'd
talk
think he's
him.
working like a rope a dope strategy,
Yeah.
like where he's acting like he's tired and he's kind of covering it up and he's playing purely defensive. No, he's got his hands down.
Oh yeah.
Clubber Lang is punching him full force in the face.
He's backing him into a corner and shit like
He's
that.
in the corner getting rocked every round.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. He's doing the rope a dope without the blocking part,
Yeah.
which really wouldn't work. But in this movie, it
I
works.
think is
Uh,
that the Cool Hand Luke strategy?
Something like that. Yeah, so I always laugh my ass off in this movie watching like he's enacting the rope a dope, but it never gets started. He's just like and you hear these shots that sound like fucking meteors hitting the earth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in the end, Rocky knocks out Clubber Lang. I believe in the last round, of course.
Yeah. Oh.
And he gets his title back.
Hmm. And then the ending scene, the you want to ring the bell?
The
Ding,
ding
ding.
ding.
That's
That's when he gets his favor. What favor?
what favor?
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's a
And
shame getting old, ain't it, champ?
then we get to Rocky 4.
Rocky 4, my God.
Awesome.
I watched that movie so many times when it first came out.
Oh man.
Man, in 85, well, probably 86 when it hit video. Unless it also hit video in 85. It took a longer for shit to hit video back then.
Well,
Uh,
that's exactly why every one of the Rocky movies opens up with like 7 minutes of the climax of the last movie.
yeah.
Because rental, like you couldn't just Netflix shit. You couldn't even like rent most of the time. Like you couldn't just rent Rocky 1 and watch it. You had to like, oh, that's how Rocky 1 ended, you know.
Yeah. And my God, if I really thought about it and had to think of which Rocky movie have I seen the most, given how many times I watched Rocky 4 the year
Mhm.
it came out, it's probably that one. Cause yeah, when you're 5, 6 years old, holy crap, man, Rocky 4 just speaks to you as a child in the
But
80s.
but it's funny cuz it's probably the worst one.
I like it better than I like it, but I like the movie. In turn, you see when you yeah, that's one of those things too, because when you rate Rocky movies, you kind of have to put them on two different lists: the ones that are your favorites versus the ones that are technically better than others.
Objectively good.
Yeah, yeah. So I I. I know I like Rocky 4 better than Rocky 5. But Rocky 4 is just such a shark jumping movie that it's entertaining as hell. Oh my god. It's how many montages are in that damn movie? Four?
Well,
Five?
even Ivan Drago gets a montage.
Yeah, yeah. It's like
Now,
he's fighting a James Bond villain.
yeah, oh, totally, totally. Because this is the movie where he fights the Super Russian.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can't remember. Do they bring up any injury, or I know he retires in this movie again until Ivan Drago challenge. I think he's gonna retire until Drago beats Apollo.
And then he there was a deleted scene where I mean it shows like a still of it in like the newspaper montage, but there was a deleted scene where he goes to the fight commission and they deny which is why I think they have to fight in Russia. Like they deny him to
Yeah, yeah. No, no, that's in the movie. Well, I'll get to that. But I can't remember if they ever mentioned an injury because I think he takes a pretty bad beating from Clubber to the point where he's like, they're mentioning like he has injury again
that,
because it's always getting worse. Like
yeah.
there's always something that he's like is kind of forcing his hand to retire.
Yeah, and I
In
remember
movies.
in this one too. Like, I mean, there was a lot of sequences, of course, with him and Adrian in this, and her not wanting to him to and her not wanting him to fight Ivan Drago.
Well, of
Be-
course not, because Ivan Drago fucking kills
Yeah,
Apollo.
because she didn't want him to get killed. I couldn't remember if she actually mentioned any kind of injury with him or not. But I mean, the first part of the movie, the first act of the movie, yeah, is really about Apollo taking on this guy and
Yeah,
Rocky and the shenanigans with and Rocky's in this with the shenanigans with the robot.
yeah, yeah. So, okay, the story with this movie is that Ivan Drago is this super Russian, but he doesn't really talk. He
Yeah,
kind of flies over with a Russian contingent with his wife, Brigitte Nielsen,
yeah, Brigitte Nielsen
who's like this 6'2" Amazon of a woman.
and the other guy, Michael Pataki, the bad guy
Yeah,
from Side Hackers.
yeah. So they fly down, and this is like at the height of the Cold War. In fact, this is a very Cold War movie.
Oh, it's totally a Cold War movie.
So this might be before some of your time, and you might not understand that we didn't like the Russians very much at a time, to the point where we were about to get into a nuclear exchange.
Yeah.
Um, and it's all played out in the boxing ring because Rocky Four basically solves the Cold War by the
It,
end of this movie.
if I could change, you could
You
change.
can change.
Everybody can
Everybody can
change.
change.
Rocky ends
And,
the Cold War in this.
yeah,
He did so much more than the Wolverines in Red Dawn.
yeah. And by the end of the movie, the Russians are cheering for Rocky.
Oh, they stand up the Russian prime minister and shit, like the slow clap thing. He starts
Yeah,
clapping, and they're in Russia.
yeah. In the heart of fucking Moscow,
Hmm.
the Russians are like, Rocky, Rocky. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
He's draped with the American flag.
Oh, yeah.
What is Ivan Drago say? His fist of iron is made of steel to
Oh,
the
yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I think he says it in Russian. He's like, his fists are made of steel.
end. Yeah.
Uh,
Good
okay,
God.
Drago comes down and they hold like a press conference where Brigitte Nielsen is kind of selling Drago like up until now you wouldn't allow Soviets to compete
Yeah,
in your American boxing tournaments, but now we have a super Russian who will take this world championship away.
yeah,
But they're like, well, we can't just give you a title shot because you just walk in here and want one. You got to beat somebody. And so Apollo's watching this guy on TV, going like, think of the think of the think of the money involved. Think of the ratings. I
mhm,
could take this guy. And so like he challenges Drago to uh, a boxing match, which is really a great scene
yeah.
where
With
like
the
Rocky doesn't want him to fight because like Apollo's retired, but watching this movie, Apollo is in great shape.
oh yeah, uh-huh.
He's in amazing shape in this
Mhm.
movie.
And that boxing scene in itself, everything leading up to it, with Apollo there dancing, you got James Brown singing "Living in America,"
Oh yeah,
and
he's got
they
that
just
huge.
cart
He's dressed
Ivan
like Uncle
Drago up
Sam,
there.
and Drago's just standing there like stone cold. Just
Confused.
no, he's not. Well, maybe, but he's just watching the shit, going like, "I'm gonna kill this guy."
Yeah. Go on,
Like
Joe, put your
he's just,
hands up.
oh yeah, yeah, and he goes, let's have a good fight. It's an exhibition, right? And he puts his hands up, and Drago just kind of stares at him. He's like, put your hands up, dude.
Hey,
And
come on,
he
Joe.
goes, he goes, boom, and he drops his hands across his gloves, and it sounds like a fucking jackhammer hitting, like clone. And
Yeah.
and he look like Apollo looks fucking scared at this guy. He's like, what the fuck?
He looked fucking terrified.
Oh, he looked like he dropped his fudge,
Yeah.
like
You
right there.
lose.
So they start the fight, and Drago is beating his ass. Like,
Yeah.
not even close. He's just teeing off on the guy. And Rocky's in his corner. He's working his corner. And he's like, I got to stop the fight, Apollo.
You ain't
And
stopping this fight.
you ain't stopping nothing, Stallion.
No matter what, you don't stop this fight.
You got to promise me, Stallion. He's like, but you're getting killed out there,
They
Apollo.
killed up there, Apollo.
He's going to kill you. And he's like, he's like, don't you stop nothing. Stallion, you ain't stopping nothing. And so, of course, Drago just rains down a fucking shot right across his head and kills him in the ring.
Yeah. And Rocky is, that was one thing, like, even when I watch it to this day, I sit there watching it, I'm like, Rocky, because Rocky's standing there, he's about to throw in the
He's
towel,
got the towel in his hand and he's like, I got it. He told me not to.
and he stops and he doesn't do it. And I'm like, really? Oh my God. At some point, you got to be like, I don't care what you said, man. I got to throw in the towel.
Well, what you got to understand is in this movie, in every one of these movies really, but in this movie more than the other movies, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, that's true.
Like you got to Apollo had to do this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Which
And so he's like,
I always thought that was one thing I always thought was kind of um naive of of Apollo to do this, especially seeing how this movie picks up where the third one leaves off.
mm,
So to to so quickly go from how wise he is in the third one to uh come on, champ, I can take him.
he's like, I don't know, Apollo. He's a pretty big guy.
Pretty big guy. Is it true, Mr. Drago, that you're on steroids?
And
No,
they kind of look
no.
at each other like, oh shit, they're onto us.
My husband only grew up eating his spinach. Yeah, okay.
That does lead me to my favorite scenes where they start showing how unfair it is that like this that fucking Dolph Lundgren is just basically a cyborg.
Yeah.
And I actually wrote down some of the speeches that Pataki says to build this guy up.
Yeah.
I remember there's this one they go. He actually has like a super science laboratory.
Oh yeah.
There's like a track, and there's like these cybernetic arms that he's wrestling, and
Like it's
like
going into like Running Man territory.
yeah, there's like treadmills, but they're sciencey treadmills, and there's like a computer that's scanning his body, and
Yeah.
they, it's all but admitted they're like blood doping him and giving him steroids and
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
And so I actually wrote this speech down. I went down and I wrote it down verbatim, where the guy goes, a normal heavyweight averages 700 pounds of pressure per square inch. And he kind of throws up a computer, and you see like a simulation of a guy hitting a bag and it goes 700 and he goes, as you can see, Drago averages 1,850 pounds. The results are obvious. Whatever Drago. You still there?
Oh, there we go. Sorry, you cut out for a couple seconds.
But yeah, so I was saying like he goes, Drago punches at 1,850 pounds, which is like fucking double what a heavyweight hits. And so like he punches this fucking thing and it like caves in the bag. And it goes like
Yeah,
it's like 1,900 pounds. And he goes, whatever even Drago hits, he destroys.
fucking yeah. He
I'm like,
destroys.
that's awesome.
This is the rudeness behavior I'm talking about with you Americans.
Oh yeah, yeah. And Apollo's all talking up the fight. He's like, "What's the matter? What's the matter? You think I'm gonna take you?" And Drago's just kind of staring ahead, and they're just horrified at the unprofessionalism that Apollo is demonstrating here. You know?
Hmm. Yeah, he knocks down his cardboard cutout.
Uh-huh.
The
But
synth music.
that was always really funny how what's weird is the Russians in this movie have the severe overbearing technological advantage.
Oh my God! It's like I said, they're working from like the lawnmower man.
He really, yeah, and of course Rocky the American is training in a fucking log cabin
He's in a log cabin, chopping wood, scaling mountains,
because that's how you do it.
listening to some more Survivor.
Oh yeah, but every one of Drago's lines is quotable because it's so awesome, and Lundgren underplays his role more
Uh
than I've ever seen anyone underplay a role.
huh. Yeah.
Where he fucking like drops his gloves across Apollo's and he just looks down and goes, "You will lose."
If he dies, he dies.
If he dies, he dies. I'm like, what the fuck is with this guy?
And him and Stallone like gritting their teeth at each other. The big zoom in on both of them.
Yeah. So the deal is like, since he murders a man in the boxing ring, the American Commission forbids him from competing for the title
Yeah.
because it's not safe. But but Rocky wants to fight him, but they won't let him.
Go to
So they're
Russia.
like he actually surrenders his world heavyweight championship so he
Yeah.
can go fight Drago in Russia.
Are you nuts?
And of course, Adrian doesn't want to. The chat room says, "Did you talk about the two gloves coming together and exploding?"
Oh, at the beginning. Oh, that's great. It's awesome
Yeah,
too because when you watch that scene in super slow motion, the American glove um punches the Soviet glove in half.
yeah, yeah. So he goes to Russia, and that's where you have like another training montage, I think, where they're both training like animals.
Yeah.
Drago's getting injections, and he's running on a track, and they're measuring shit, and he's fucking karate chopping anvils in half.
Hmm.
And Rocky's in basically like the frozen tundras of Russia, being
Yeah.
watched by KGB agents as he's pulling a Volkswagen behind him, and he's like carrying this fucking tree over his shoulders as he's running through the snow.
Grows a sweet beard.
Oh, he's got this huge beard because he's got no time to shave. He's got to train, you know.
Got a train. He's got the picture of Drago on the mirror.
Yeah, and yeah, Hearts on Fire. That's
Hearts
the
on fire. Oh
which
yeah.
is so cheesy.
Drago!
Yeah, yeah, and he gets to the top of the mountain. And he goes, Drago!
Drago!
So they finally have the match, and this is again. I've gone on about the cartoonish violence, but here it's amazing. You know,
Oh
uh,
god, yeah.
but what kills me about this is I don't think we ever see Rocky fight up to this point, or even
No,
train
well,
without his shirt on. But when he takes his robe off or takes his shirt off in this movie, Stallone is fucking ripped.
yeah. He's been training in the mountains and shit.
Like seriously, you look at his physique in the first Rocky, and then look at his physique in Rocky 4. he must have gained about 80 pounds of muscle.
Oh yeah.
He is huge
Mhm.
in this movie. And even so, Dolph Lundgren still has like a foot on this guy.
Okay. Yeah. And that's true. I mean, Stallone himself is maybe only a couple inches taller than I am, and I'm 5'7".
Mm-hmm.
Stallone's yeah, he's not that big of a dude, and yeah, so when you pit him against Dolph Lundgren, it's again like in Rocky 3 when he's standing face to face with Thunderlips and you barely see Hulk
Mm-hmm.
Hogan's head.
But yeah, this whole fight, he is reaching up, like he's swinging over his head to
Mm-hmm.
hit Drago.
Mm-hmm.
And
Leaping
so
off the ground.
I must break you. Um,
Good God, he's fucking
um,
terrifying.
oh yeah, yeah. I was really scared of that guy when I saw it. I was like, oh my god,
Oh,
like
and
you
I
didn't
was
really
like,
think.
I remember seeing that for the first time when I was a kid. Like I said, when it first came out, and sitting there being like, "This is gonna get really bloody."
I know, yeah. So cartoonish levels of violence, of course, probably more so even than the Clubber Lang fight. But
Yeah,
what
yeah,
what
it
I
is.
found kind of funny was, um, in every one of the boxing matches up to this point, Rocky had a plan, kind
Yeah,
of. You know what I mean? Like he in with Apollo, he was gonna work the body. You know, he was gonna he had a plan. I can't remember what his plan was exactly, but he had a plan.
uh
In
huh,
the third one, he was gonna rope a dope the guy.
yeah,
In this one, he had no plan. He just straight up kicks Drago's ass.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I was really expecting him to like maybe watching Drago on tape or like trying to find some kind of weakness or a flaw in his technique
yeah,
or some like maybe he I thought really he was going to find a way to outsmart this guy because like they make it a point like there's no way he can out physical he can't out train this guy because he's
yeah,
an android, you know.
yeah. He's got the
um
power of 23rd century technology behind him.
he literally in this movie he literally punches at like 2.5 times the strongest man in the world.
Yeah,
He's punching steel plates in half.
yeah,
So I'm like, he's got okay, so we can't like outfight this guy. He's got to outsmart him.
uh
No, he
huh.
doesn't do that here. He just straight up kicks Ivan Drago's ass.
He, well, he's got a robot living with him with artificial intelligence. He could have asked him.
Oh, we didn't even mention the robot. Oh my
Ha-
god.
Happy birthday, Polly.
Happy birthday, Polly. Happy birthday, Polly. Um, yeah, for Polly's birthday, he gets him an ambulatory robot with this big fucking head that
That,
has artificial intelligence.
yeah,
It has a phone. It makes cake.
it serves drinks.
It serves drinks. It's in like half the movie.
It is, and then
It's like
Polly changes the robot's voice to sound like a very sultry female.
yeah, because it's like you're welcome, Polly.
You're welcome,
And
Polly.
they're all looking at Polly like he's a fucking freak, and he's like, it loves me.
The robot loves me. Like holy shit! I want to see more of this movie.
You want to see Polly fucking the robot?
Yeah,
Oh man. But yeah, every time they have like a dialogue scene where, Apollo comes over to Rocky's house and he's like, I want to fight this guy, Stallion. I want to fight him. Like every time they do that, they're at Rocky's house
yeah.
and the robot is there. So there's always a scene where the robot kind of rolls in the room and Apollo looks at this robot and goes, "What in the fuck?"
He like cuts Apollo off like mid speech or something or mid. I don't even know if the robot said anything, but the robot just wheels in there, does something, and leaves. And it was seriously like mid sentence that Apollo was
Yeah.
saying, and he has to go back to this serious dialogue.
Scene grinds to a halt.
Yeah,
They're like, "Wait, wait, 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 wait. What?
it's
Wow."
it's almost like they didn't tell Carl Weathers there was a
Yeah.
robot in this movie.
Just act natural, Carl.
This is
So
gonna be
Stallion, I've been
hilarious.
watching the tapes. This guy can be beat. What the fuck?
This is gonna be hilarious. We're gonna pull this practical joke on Carl.
So yeah, there's like I'm not even kidding. There's like 6 to 7 scenes of this robot just kind of wandering in and stopping the movie completely.
There's even scenes where you can see the robot in the background, and
Yeah,
and if you see this robot in the background, even if it's just standing there, That's all you're looking at because it's a
I know it.
Rocky movie and there's a fucking robot with artificial
It's the
intelligence.
You could not have picked a better way to distract your audience from whatever the fuck is going on in the scene than
Yeah.
having this big-headed robot just kind of blooping around, go bloop 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 bloop.
Can you imagine if the robot was in Russia with him? Like was wearing a coat like outside in the
If it was
snow.
his like corner man, it was like at the round ends and Rocky staggers into a corner and he's all bleeding from the mouth and the robot arm swings into view and like sprays water in his mouth. Oh, thank you, robot. Would
You're
you like
getting
to
them
spit,
chicken.
Rock?
Oh yeah, they would pro if they did that they would have programmed its voice to sound like Burgess Meredith.
Oh, that would be awesome. I'm gonna reprogram this robot. It's gonna teach me to train like Mick. You're a wrecking machine. We're gonna teach you to eat thunder and crap lightning.
That would have made Rocky 4 the best in the entire series.
Robo Mick.
Robo Mick. Oh my god. Well, they brought his ghost back in the fifth one.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that'd be great. No, that'd be a great scene for a parody. Like, they bring Robo Mick to Russia, and Rock staggers into the corner. His eyes are all swollen shut. Robo Mick, you gotta cut me. And like this arm really clumsily swings into view with like a razor. He's like, oh god!
Like he's got a
Ah!
like a Swiss Army knife hand. He's getting angry.
Phoenix. Wait, no, wrong series.
Oh
We
my god.
should talk about Demolition Man. I love that fucking movie too.
Demolition
Um,
Man's fucking great.
oh yeah, okay, but end of the movie, he gives that speech
Hmm.
where if I can change, you can change,
Everybody
and
could change.
and the crowd loves him, and that's it.
Yeah. The Cold War done and it's over.
um, Drago does say some more things during the fight, like he goes, "This man is made of iron" or something like that,
Yeah.
and like the Russian premier himself comes down from the royal box and is like, "You're embarrassing us." He's like, "This American is kicking your ass," and like, "What are you doing?" You're like, we wasted millions on you, and what the fuck is the matter with you? And Drago like stands up, he's all fucking pissed. He's like, "I trained for me,
Yeah.
me." And he like throws the guy in the crowd.
Lundgren's fucking great in this movie. You know,
Oh yeah.
when I was watching these movies last weekend, I went online and I was like, because other than Apollo Creed, you don't know what happened to the other opponents after the events in their movies take place. So I went online and I was like, just to see, because I know Stallone gives a lot of interviews to fans and such and answers a lot of questions. So I typed in just on Google like what happened to Rocky's opponents, and it took me to an interview with Stallone where somebody asked him that and said like whatever happened to whatever happened to, let's say, Clubber Lang, Ivan Drago, or Tommy Gunn. And he answered and he said if I had to put it in a script, Clubber Lang is now a fight analyst who is also an evangelist. I'm going to tell you about
Look at this
Jesus.
sucker. It'd be great having Mr. T on a boxing commentary.
Oh yeah, he said Tommy Gunn is now a third-rate wrestler working in the Midwest. Um,
I
and
could see that.
I can see that too. Um, but Ivan Drago, here's what he said about Drago. Drago went home in shame, was disgraced by his country, succumbed to alcoholism, and killed himself. It's
You
like,
know, watching that, I buy that too.
I do too. I do too, but I'm like, oh man, well now I'm really sad.
Because you get the impression that, even after, let's just face it, Rocky does retire in the next movie.
Yeah, yeah.
He finally does like finally retire.
Mm.
You get the feeling that Drago probably could have come back and dominated the American championship circuit if he just he kind of had the endurance. He lost one fight,
Yeah.
okay.
This is
You
still
know,
a guy who punches with the ability of the fucking Terminator. Yeah, he
yeah,
lost one fight, but he's still a fucking killer.
yeah. So I just get the feeling, okay, it's demoralizing to lose a fight against Balboa, and people are always going to kind of question whether or not he could have beaten Balboa later on. But you could have actually kind of made a movie about Drago coming back and learning something, and
I'd fucking watch that.
yeah, yeah.
I'd fucking
Because
watch that
actually, by
movie.
the end of that movie, he kind of comes across like a good guy, which is weird because he murdered Apollo, but whatever.
That is
Um,
true. It's at the end of the movie, like it does kind of. I mean, even and this is why I like Drago so much because even without him having a lot of dialogue, you do see that at the end that there has gotten to be a sort of respect there between the two characters. At least Drago towards Rocky.
mm,
Like when they say to the end and stuff like that, and even when Drago is sitting there listening to Stallone's speech in there. He's not listening. When you see the look on his face, it doesn't. I mean, to me anyway, it doesn't necessarily come across like Drago is looking at him in anger or
mm,
or anything like that. Which kind of makes me sad that apparently his story ends really tragic.
yeah.
Um,
Now this, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I could just pop in Red Scorpion and pretend like Dolph Lundgren's playing Ivan Drago in it.
Now, Rocky 5 was one I meant to watch again, and I didn't have time, so I don't remember much about it. But I do know in this movie that Rocky is he's physically forced into retirement
Yeah,
because they actually show like he's been beaten. The fight with Drago beat him so bad
yeah,
that he's got like severe post concussion syndrome or something like that. And they're like, one more fight could kill you.
yeah. He's in the shower, his hands are shaking. Adrian comes up to him, and he goes to the doctor, and Paulie loses all of their money.
Oh, that was a really weird plot twist too, where like, you know, Rocky's been the world heavyweight champion for years.
Yeah,
At least 10 title defenses. He won the super fight in Russia.
yeah.
You got to imagine there was some money on the line, but between movies, Paulie just blew their money.
He blew. I bought you a lot more jackets, Rock.
I forget how he blew his money. I think it was like honestly, it might have been like an investment scam that he lost it in. I
I was
can't
gonna say,
remember.
was it like a Ponzi scheme or something like that? Something with
I
stocks or I can't
I
remember.
think he got cheated out of the money. I don't think he just blew it on whores, but
No, yeah, he didn't do that. It was some kind of like shady. It was some kind of like shady deal or something that he had going on. Um,
he could have sold the robot.
You no shit. A fucking robot with artificial intelligence, he could make his fucking money back on that. I'm not selling the robot.
That would be funny if we watched Rocky Balboa and Paulie still had the robot.
We've been together for 20 years. Probably, yeah.
you,
This is getting kind of crazy.
you gotta let go of the robot, Paulie.
It's not real, Polly.
It's not a real woman, you know.
Take that back, Rock.
It's not gonna replace Adrian, you know.
That would be something if like some scene in 5 or in 6 where I don't know they're in the basement or something and you just see the robot in the background in fucking storage.
Why was I programmed to feel pain?
Thought I dropped you off at the pawn shop.
Okay, but what I remember is that Rocky has to retire.
Yeah,
So he basically takes on like a protege named Tommy Gunn,
yeah.
who's like this young, brash, up and coming heavyweight. And I think he offers to train him and act as his manager because, as we all know, if Rocky does one thing well, it's manage fighters well. Um, but from there, I don't remember or really have much of a memory what happens. I know that I think Tommy is always very jealous of Rocky's career. Like he's always kind of held up. Like Rocky was never beaten for the title,
Yeah.
so
Well,
he's like, oh, he kind of wins the title, but he's always living in Rocky's shadow.
I remember enough about 5. Last time I saw 5 was when 6 came out. I had a marathon and watched all 5 of them. And 5 is my least favorite out of all of them. I don't think that 5 is as bad as its reputation. I mean, it's not very good, but it's not one of I don't think it's one of Stallone's worst.
No.
Like Stallone, he hates Five. He hates it with a fiery passion. I don't think it's one of Stallone's worst, but it's not. It's just not that interesting of a movie. It it's got a couple of good characters in it, like George Washington Duke.
Oh, the Don King stand-in.
Remember
Yeah.
George Washington Duke? You gonna fight? You gonna fight where I tell you, when I tell you, and how I tell you. Hey man, come on, punch me and I'll sue you.
Yeah, I remember that. He was a great Don King stand-in.
That guy was fucking awesome. So like he's great in it, but Five, I, Tommy,
Well,
like
it's not.
I know that Tommy Gunn is like the villain, but he's such an uninteresting villain. He's he's not charismatic in the least. He's just kind of trashy. Like I just don't care about Tommy Gunn. And then like I maybe it would have been more interesting if Tommy Gunn didn't necessarily turn evil, but then I guess it wouldn't have had a villain, I suppose. But he just kind of turns egomaniacal after he becomes famous, and there's a lot of stuff in it with Rocky and his son because Rocky's son is
Yeah.
jealous of all the attention that Tommy Gunn is getting. But Rocky's son in this movie is really kind of whiny. Like he's certainly understandably whiny because Rocky really is kind of giving all this attention to Tommy Gunn, but he's so angry and bitter about it that he just comes across more so unlikable. Um, and like the back and forths that Stallone have with him are really kind of corny. In that Stallone's always telling him like really bad jokes. Well,
Yeah.
like he did in the earlier movies, I guess too. But I mean, it worked better for me in the earlier movies. You could tune a piano, but you can't tune a fish. Um,
Hmm.
and I do like the scene though, where his son gets bullied in the schoolyard, and his son gets bullied in the schoolyard. So Rocky's advice to him is to beat the shit out of the other kid. Like, just go back there and you give him your 1, 2, and so Sage Stallone goes back and like fucking decks the other kid. And then for the rest of the movie, he and the other kid are like the best of friends.
Right. I'm just looking at my notes here. I only took a couple for five.
Well, it's got that flashback scene where I guess technically, yeah, it's not Mickey's ghost, but it's like a sort of flashback where Rocky goes into the old training area, and it's dilapidated at this point, and he looks up on the ring, and then it flashes back to like young Rocky and Mick standing there, and Mick being more sentimental than he ever was in any of the movies. He's like, "You get up, you son of a bitch, because Mickey loves you." It's like, when did he ever say anything like that?
I never had the heart to tell you, Rock.
I never had the heart to tell you, Rock. You're like a son to me. Um, I hate it when I have to raise my voice to you.
I promised
Um,
myself I wouldn't cry, Rock.
like he gives him like a locket or something, or
Hmm.
some necklace. I think you hang on to this, Rock. This was passed on for generations. Um, but I think that Five's weakest quality is really just that it's just not that memorable of a movie. Um,
Well, it's hard to get invested in it because I remember watching this movie and really just not caring because they make it clear really early on in the film that he's not uh, fighting anymore. Like Rock
yeah,
is, he's like, I gotta retire. I physically cannot fight anymore.
and even as a
So
villain, it's hard to care about Tommy Gunn.
yeah, so you get the feeling really early on that Rock is kind of not a player anymore in his own movie.
Well,
It's
yeah. I mean, up until it does lead to the street fight at the end.
Yeah, there is a fight. Is there a training montage in this movie? Because I really don't think so. I
If there
can't
is,
remember.
if there is, it's just Tommy Gunn. It's just him training Tommy Gunn. And because the street fight at the end is spontaneous because Tommy Gunn uh bursts into like the bar that they're at and he punches Paulie in the face. Like,
Mm.
you gonna knock him down? Won't you try knocking me down? my there's no ring, Rock. My ring's outside.
My ring's outside.
That was a pretty badass moment. Like that was Rocky was fucking angry. He was
Well, I
more
mean,
angrier there than when Apollo got killed.
I can actually appreciate. That's actually it sounds silly, but the fight is where the movie actually gets really good because they do a surprisingly good job of telling a story with that fight.
Yeah, because you got his
Where
son in the ring, and you've got George Washington Duke there, and the back
where
and
it's
forths between Gunn and Balboa.
yeah. So it takes a long time to get there, but Tommy is like he's so tired of living in Rocky's shadow. He's like, I'm gonna fight this guy and just I'm gonna beat him up. I'm
Yeah,
gonna beat him up, and people aren't gonna say that I'm not as tough as Rocky Balboa anymore. So he goes there and he challenges. He's really spontaneous. He's actually rather, I don't want to say stereotypically, but he's really just kind of insane over this for no reason.
yeah, he is. He is.
He's really just kind of egomaniacal, and I guess that's really why it's hard to take this that seriously, is because
He
it's kind of
gets
contrived.
well, yeah, and he gets. There's really no build up to how evil he gets in it. Like when Tommy Gunn becomes the villain in this movie, he becomes it quick. Like there's
Mhm.
not that much of a build up. There's not that much of a build up to it.
Yeah, I think there's like one scene where you see him getting jealous, and all of a sudden he's fired Rocky and he's hired Don King,
Yeah.
and like all of a sudden Don King's promoting his fights,
Hmm.
and really you believe Don King is the villain much more than you do Tommy Gunn
Well,
because he's so much more slimy.
he's much more charismatic as a character too, and the acting in the part is better on the part of George Washington Duke than Tom Morrison was with Tommy Gunn.
I think the what really kind of killed it for me is it really would have helped if we knew Tommy from a previous movie, like if he was a character we knew and cared about from before.
Yeah.
That when all of a sudden he kind of turns villainous and kind of turns against Rocky, it would have a little more emotional impact. Um, but we really have never had a character that had that kind of emotional connection to Rocky that survives. You know, um,
Yeah.
there's really no other boxer. Maybe if Rocky had a friend that was kind of looking up to Rocky and
Yeah.
something like that. I don't know. But he never had that character. So when he has like all of a sudden we're just introduced to Tommy Gunn at the beginning of the movie, and within about 15 minutes they're enemies now, and you're just like I don't know. We get the feeling they're friends, and Rocky really feels like he has a responsibility to train this guy and put him on the
Yeah.
right path, but it's just not established for me where I'm really looking forward to see these guys fight.
I agree with you because I mean Tommy he walks in like off the street into the training ring, and Rocky he wants to train him to be a better fighter, but then he also like lets him stay in his house, and he like takes his son's room. Like
Mm,
these guys have known each other for like 5 minutes, and Gunn really is a trashy looking motherfucker.
mm.
Did you ever?
But
Well, there also this was originally, and I've seen still shots of it. Rocky was supposed to die at the end of this movie.
looking at it, I believe it.
Yeah, me too.
Um, and I can see why they looked at the script and go, we cannot possibly end it this way. We're like,
Yeah, yeah, that would have been. I mean, by Tommy Gunn, really? I mean,
well,
come on.
the way I figured it originally ended was, Tommy he beats up Tommy, and then as he's walking away, kind of collapses, and that's
There's
it.
still
Kind of.
shots of it. There's still
Oh,
shots
really?
of the scene. I don't know if the scene itself has been released, but there are still shots of it. And how it goes is he beats Gunn, and Gunn gets arrested like he did in it, but Rocky dies like in Adrian's arms, like he's on the ground and she's holding on to him and he dies. Um that I've seen those still shots. I like I said, I don't know if the scene itself has ever been actually released, but and you beyond the fact that Rocky originally was supposed to die in this movie, you can still tell that Stallone did intend this to be the last one.
There
Like,
was no way. Well, even by Rocky 3, people were starting to get a little tired of the series. I think. By 4, it had literally become a parody of itself.
well, by 4, fans were still with 4. By 4, critics really lost interest in it. 4 is still the top grossing Rocky movie. I mean, it is totally a 100% commercial film. uh, but yeah, so by the time 5 did come around, the 5 years had passed between the making of Rocky 4 and Rocky 5. So, and in that time, 4 was seen as a parody of itself, and then 5 came out. It didn't have quite as many people yearning for it as they did around when 4 came out. So 5 didn't do that well at the box office.
Um, I actually rather like the street fight scene.
I do too.
It's
I do too.
it's kind of weird because I'm really not digging that movie up to that point. And I don't know if it's just because it's the first thing that has any kind of legitimate action that I care about. That might
Yeah.
be it. There's the really goofy scene where Rocky's basically knocked out.
Yeah.
Tommy's kicking his ass, and he sees like that really crazily edited montage where he's kind of like the concussions kind of getting to him, and his thoughts are all disjointed and spastic, and he sees the ghost of Mick, and it's all kind of crazy looking where it's cut with other footage.
For some reason, he has a nom flashback.
Yeah, something like that where it's all. I actually really like the editing of that scene where he's all very punchy and he's trying to muster up his courage to get up one more time, and the
Yeah.
ghost of Mick is like right in his face, and I'm like, ah,
Yeah. I didn't hear no bell.
hey, Tommy.
And the continuity of the entire series is really is really weird because uh 4 picks up where 3 lives leaves off.
Mm,
5 picks up directly after the events of 4. And so you have his son in Rocky 5 who is about 6 or 7 years older.
yeah.
He's about 6 or 7 years older, and like I was thinking about this the other day, and I'm like, so okay, 4 is after 3, and then 5 directly after 4. Am I still supposed to believe this is taking place in 1982? So that I always kind of found that funny because really, I can it makes really there's no reason at least for 4 to pick up right where the third one leaves off. Like with 5, yeah, you do have the him suffering from the brain damage with Ivan Drago. So that's played more into continuation with 5.
Mm.
So I always found that kind of funny, all the the continuity with the entire series.
Which leads us to the much, much later and recent Rocky Balboa.
I love Rocky Balboa.
I don't think anybody was taking this movie seriously, though.
I was still pumped for it, because I'm such a huge Stallone fan that Stallone, back in theaters, this like is a comeback movie for him. I mean, I was pumped for it to do well. I was pumped to see it. When I first heard about it, that he was doing another one, I don't think I thought it was going to be good, but I at least was excited that that it's Stallone. Stallone's back, But then in seeing the previews for the movie and even the early buzz on it, the early press, I was like, oh, this is actually supposed to be really good. Awesome.
It really is remarkable how it is. I really consider it a truer sequel to Rocky than any of the Rocky sequels
I
because
agree with you. In
um,
tone, it's like the first one. Um, it is not it is not campy like 3 or 4. It's not useless like the fifth one is. It is you can go directly from watching the first one to watching Rocky Balboa, Rocky 6, and feeling like this is like this is a true continuation of this movie.
So this movie, it actually is. Rocky is he's actually relatively successful. He owns a restaurant.
Yeah,
Um, he's but mainly he's just kind of a shell of his former self because Adrian's dead,
yeah,
and you always get the feeling like the better part of him died with her. And so I actually thought it was rather interesting that that's kind of the crux of this movie is how he's dealing with the loss of Adrian and Paulie as well,
yeah,
um, not dealing with it well at all. So um, really, this movie is about uh, Rocky finally working through that.
yeah.
I got this beast inside me, I gotta do something to get it out, I gotta fight one more time. And so, like, as silly as it sounds, at the age of what? How old is Rocky supposed to be? 58,
Yeah, something like that.
something like that.
I think that's about how old Stallone was. The movie was 2006.
Um, the whole thing starts basically with there's a fight on ESPN. There's like a new show where they computer simulate the current world heavyweight champion, who is it?
Mason the Line
Tar-
Dixon.
Mason the Line Dixon, but I forget his real name. Tarver was it?
Oh, I
Antonio
can't
Tarver,
remember.
I think it is. But his character is Mason the Line Dixon, which is just awesome. They spent weeks trying to come up with a name.
Yeah.
What's a badass boxer name? Antonio Tarver is. Okay. So there's like this ESPN computerized fight where they do like a fantasy matchup where they put Mason Dixon against Rocky Balboa,
Hmm.
and Rocky wins the fight in the simulation. And so like Mason is there's a lot of controversy surrounding his title reign because the sport of boxing is like kind of in decline
Yeah.
at this point, and Dixon has never really had to face a truly tough opponent.
Yeah.
They say he's never been tested. He's so good. He's just breezing through his competition. So even though he's been a long reigning champion and he's blown through all his competitors, you can't call him a great champion because his competition isn't nearly as good as the competition Rocky had to put up with, or
Yeah.
the competition Apollo Creed had to put up with. And so that's really the big thing that's pushing Dixon is he wants to prove himself,
Hmm.
but there's no one out there who can do it.
Yeah.
And I forget who pushes the fight. Like if it's Dixon's management wants the fight and they come to him, they come to Rocky like proposing the fight.
They come to Rocky at his restaurant
Hmm.
to offer it to him as an exhibition fight. Um,
And he doesn't want it
yeah.
because he says he wants to fight again, but he just wants local fights. Like he just wants to kind of mainly spar. He just he wants to get up and do something to take his mind off Adrian, I guess. Um,
Yeah.
and so he just wants to fight in exhibitions, but finally it kind of gets out of control to the point where this kind of a media frenzy around it, and he has to do it
Yeah.
at some point. He has to do it. So best scene in the movie for me. Well, maybe not the best, but one of the funniest scenes in the movie is where he has to reapply for his boxing license,
Oh yeah.
where he gives this really impassioned speech, and he's like, "Sometimes, I, you ever get the feeling you just got to do something like your life's work isn't complete, and like so they finally like we're not going to give you're like 60 years old, Rocky, and he's like, but you got to because well, it gives you the right to tell me how I can live my life.
Yo, I don't got some rights. Rights like that piece of paper they wrote down on the street there. That's the Bill of Rights, Rocky. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the Bill of Rights.
Jeez, but if you don't, like, I passed the physical, there's nothing wrong with me, so you gotta let me fight or you're Nazis, and like, and they're like, okay, you can have the license.
Hmm.
But yeah, him passing the physical is probably the biggest head scratching moment of that movie. Where not only is he like 60 years old and he has no business in a boxing ring, but they firmly established in several movies he's got like detached retinas.
Yeah.
He's got brain damage to the point where one more fight he could die, and they just go, well, you passed your physical, everything seems okay, but you probably shouldn't fight. Um,
Look at this shape I'm in.
So really, it's really just a retcon of the series where they're just like, you know what? Do you want to see a Rocky movie or not?
It is, and this one, like the first one, it's a character film. It's not. Whereas the fourth one, you know, um, is just about the fight. That's the fourth one. It's you
Yeah.
pitting him against Mad Russian. Okay, fine. This one is not about him solely fighting, being 60 years old and fighting Mason the Line Dixon. You
No,
know,
it's not about the fight. It's about him working out his, well, I hate to use the word because it has a weird connotation, but impotence.
yeah,
Um, his impotence in life, where he kind of feels useless, he feels helpless, he feels washed up. His son doesn't respect him, um, and he's, of course, his wife is dead, and so he's still never gotten over that.
and it's some of the best acting I've seen Stallone do
Yeah.
in a while. He's amazing in this movie. When you've got the scene of him breaking down in the meatpacking plant with
Mhm.
Paulie, and he's talking about how hard he didn't know it was going to be after he lost Adrian, and like all the scenes where he's going to what used to be the ice skating rink, where his neighborhood used to be, like all of this. I mean, it's seriously some of the finest acting work that Stallone's really ever done. And I've always thought he was underrated as an actor, but I mean,
Oh yeah, it's heart wrenching stuff.
yeah, he's phenomenal in this.
There is one scene that's kind of ham fisted that I basically stood up in the theater and shouted symbolism. Um, there's a scene where he's walking the woman from the first movie who yells "Screw you, creepo,"
Yeah, yeah. I don't
and
remember saying that. No, you did.
oh, you did.
I remember the good insults.
But he's walking her home, and they're really hitting it off, and it's actually a rather really great acting chemistry between those two, by the way.
Yeah,
Um, and I'm really glad they don't go the obvious way of having them like completely make out or like do it in the hotel room before the
like
match. They're just
I'm glad they didn't do that too. I am, because this the way they do it in the movie is a lot more realistic.
it's it it's on a deeper platonic level, and it's much more believable that way.
Yeah.
Um, and you get the feeling if had they done it the other way, it'd just be pissing on Adrian's grave. Um,
Yeah.
but the scene that I really had to groan at was there's a scene where it's at night. He's walking her home, and he walks up to her door, and the light is out.
Yeah.
And so he comes back the next day, same a different night, and screws in a light bulb because you see Rocky makes everything a little brighter when he's around.
Exactly.
That's really just like really like punch in the face symbolism right there. It's I couldn't maybe I just overreacted, but that was just me. But I really like that relationship with I can't even remember her name now, but those
Oh
two are
crap,
really
me
good.
neither. Um, and I just simply love the fact that they brought that character back.
Hmm. Um.
I'm looking up the Marie.
Oh, and Marie.
Yeah, that
So
was it.
they
And his
finally
no, go ahead.
you knew they were leading up to a big training montage,
Yeah,
you know, because like everyone was expecting it's been what was like 15 years or something like that since the last Rocky movie,
yeah,
so
yeah.
you gotta have the training montage, and so I think that was actually the lead up to it was in the trailer where they got the Apollo's trainer that the
Duke.
black guy
They brought Duke
Duke.
back.
They brought Duke. Yeah. And so he's listing off all the stuff like how you're 60 years old. You got calcium deposits on all your joints. So sparring is out. And your knees are shot, so we can't do any hard running. So all we got to do is focus on raw brute strength. He's like, you got to hit him so hard that his ancestors will shake in their tombs. And
I was,
let's build up some hurting bombs.
let's build up some hurting bombs. They got the lighting on there. You can see the dust all behind them and shit. It might as well be a spotlight right on the guy.
Oh yeah.
It ain't over till it's over. What's that, like from the 80s? I think that was the 70s.
It's from the 70s.
That might be my favorite line in the movie.
So this montage, he gets this manky old dog, and he's jogging with the dog, and of course he's training all really the winner of the Rocky movies is always the guy who has the most low tech training. So he's like throwing empty barrels around, and
Oh yeah.
he's just pumping iron. He's lifting weights, and he's
Hmm.
beating up like a. He's not. Actually, he does go back into the. Paulie lets him in the meat packing plant to beat up on a side of beef.
Does isn't he carrying the dog around it? What? Or no, he uh he runs at the top of the stairs and he picks up the dog and
Yeah,
starts carrying him, doesn't he?
yeah.
That's right. That's right.
So great training montage, and Duke really knocks that monologue out of the park,
Yeah.
where he's talking about how bad he's hurting and how bad he's injured and how he can't train, and basically he has no chance.
Hmm.
But except basically he tells him at the beginning of this fight, you got to go for a knockout.
Yeah.
Like you got to just hope you get a shot in, and when you do, like when you hit him, you got to hurt him, and you got to hurt him bad.
Yeah.
Um, so um, I don't know what to say about Tarver's acting in this movie. He really doesn't have that much of a character to speak of. He really doesn't say all that much.
Not really. He doesn't. It's done better in this than it was in five because in five, Tommy Gunn was a straight up villain, and he
Hmm.
just wasn't that good of a character. The acting wasn't that good. It was just a really uncharismatic role. In this one, I mean, yeah, Tarver's not great. The character is just kind of there, but he's not the villain of the movie.
I think the worst part is that you kind of like the guy because again, he's kind of like Apollo in the sense that he you can tell he's kind of an honorable guy,
Yeah,
and he wants to fight this straight up and he wants to prove himself.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and there's actually I think the best scene with him is where he goes, look, man, I know how old you are and I know what you're trying to do, and I'm not going to embarrass you out there.
yeah,
But if you try to hurt me, you try to dirty box me, I'm going to put you down.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
was like, I really like that. I really like that scene because it kind of laid him out in the line where he's like, we're gonna do this thing. I don't want to do it, and I know you probably don't want to do it, but we're gonna go out there. We're gonna fight like men, and we're gonna do this thing. But you fuck with me, I'm gonna destroy you.
yeah,
So, but
yeah, yeah. I mean,
but unlike, sorry.
Carl Weathers did it better than Tarver did, but
Oh yeah, well, I mean, unlike Apollo though, Tarver has no character really. I mean, he's
yeah,
he's just kind of a blank slate.
which I think I mean, it's not that bad towards the movie. I don't think because, like I said, he's not a villain.
No,
He's not like the villain of this movie or anything like that. So it didn't bother me too much that he's not the most charismatic person in the world.
they could have so easily gone the other way with that too, where like Tarver sees the simulation match and stands up and he goes, "What? Outrageous! What the fuck?
Yeah,
Nobody disrespects me. I'm the champion. Get that belt bullet motherfucker on the line." Like you could have really seen how they would have gone like really over the top with this guy.
gone
Like
like into Clubber Lang territory.
yeah, where he's like, "I'm gonna prove myself over Balboa's dead body," something
Yeah,
like. Um, but like, maybe it might have been entertaining that way, but it would have really been cartoonish and would have really distracted from.
oh, it wouldn't have been keeping in tone with the rest of the movie. Like you might as well throw the fucking robot in there.
Oh yeah. Um, Now, as for the fight itself, it probably is the best, or at least I don't want to say most realistic, but first of all, Stallone's physique again in this movie is
Oh
phenomenal.
yeah, he's in great shape. It's like, who cares if this guy is still fucking built as shit? He could still do movies like this.
The dude is colossal in this movie. He's probably got a bigger physique than fucking Tarver.
Yeah.
And honestly, Tarver probably goes in that fight lighter.
Uh huh.
Do they even? I think they might have actually mentioned that. Um, they kind of do this thing where there's like an ESPN fight night coverage, and Max Kellerman is there, and the various other commentaries, and
Yeah.
like Max Kellerman's the only guy who actually has Rocky in this fight, just for
Yeah.
sentimentality. But I think they actually do mention in this movie that Tarver Dixon is going into this movie like 10 to 20 pounds lighter
Yeah.
because they're like maybe he didn't take the training seriously, like maybe he, this was this a title fight?
It was no, it was an exhibition fight.
I know. Yeah, there's no way this was a title fight, but they're like, well, since it's not a title fight, Tarver didn't train as hard
Yeah.
for this fight because he's not really expecting anyone to get hurt.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's how they justify it. But this fight actually is very well shot, and they do tell a story with this one where like Tarver is beating this guy's ass,
Yeah.
where Stallone again has heart, but he's not in this guy's league.
Yeah.
Not really.
Mhm.
Um, but again, for all the punishment that Dixon is dishing out, he will not go down,
Uh-huh.
and he kind of shows really what Hart's all about when
Yeah.
when he's just laying into this guy, and the guy is literally just like he's getting up, spitting his blood out, and just kind of like, what? Come on, like he's like, you cannot put me down for that long. And so that was a really, and what happens in this fight is he's actually beating Rocky so hard he breaks his wrist, I think.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's punching him in the ribs, and he rolls his wrist over and breaks it. And so that's when Rocky actually starts mounting a comeback. And actually, I think they start mentioning this fight going into the final rounds is in question
And
on.
it's a split decision or a judge's decision too, like in the first one.
Well, they go to a decision, but I think even the commentators are like, Rocky's not only going the distance, but he might actually be kind of even on rounds.
Yeah.
I don't think so because Dixon does score quite a few knockdowns.
Yeah.
And
I
when you score a knockdown, you pretty much score the round at 10-8. Um,
I'd have to watch. I need to. Honestly, I need to watch the sixth one again sometime.
but
It's been a few years since I've seen it.
I know they mentioned the fight is close.
That actually kind of pissed me off because in the AMC marathon last weekend they didn't show six.
Yeah, exactly.
It was just one through five. I was, oh god
Yeah,
damn it!
Dixon. Yeah. So by the end of the movie, Dixon has kind of got his lesson, and not only has he dished out an unbelievable amount of punishment to Rocky,
Yeah.
and he wouldn't give up, and he wouldn't stay down, he wouldn't get knocked out, but he also took like Rocky beat his ass too,
Yeah.
and so he had to fight through injury. Because of his, he could have just waved the fight off because he broke his wrist. He didn't do that because he has pride, and he
Yeah.
fights through this injury. He takes his beating, and everyone kind of like, there's no question he beats Rocky, who's kind of literally, he's a washed up over the hill guy, but
Oh
he
yeah.
showed more heart in this fight than he ever had. So, end of the movie, he wins a split decision, which he's like, that actually does take Dixon by surprise because he's like, what?
No, the end of the movie, Dixon won.
Yeah, he does win,
Hmm.
but
Oh,
then
I'm
I
sorry.
saw the
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Sorry.
the alternate endings on the DVD.
Yeah.
And I think there's actually two alternate endings.
There's two. I saw the one where Rocky wins.
Yeah,
Where
there's one alternate ending where Rocky wins,
yeah.
and which is just unbelievable.
Like it like it Rocky and in both of the endings that I saw, the one in the movie and the one where Rocky wins, Rocky still has the same reaction like in the first one, like he's going there and
he
like
he walks out of the ring before the decision is read.
yeah, exactly. So it does that in both endings.
I think there's another ending where it's either he stays in the ring as the decision is read, or it might actually there might be one that ends in a draw.
Oh, really? I
Yeah,
don't
it
think I've
might be
seen
like
that. I don't think I've seen that ending. I've got the
I don't I might be remembering it wrong, but I think there's one that either ends in a straight up draw or a majority draw.
I've got
I
the
can't
box
remember it,
set of all six of them. I'll have to see if those are on there.
but yeah, the they wanted to end it with Dixon winning, but I think Stallone was like, let's just shoot the ending where I win, just in case I madness strikes me, and I like the producers. Honestly, I think they did it. I think they filmed every ending just so spoilers wouldn't leak.
Yeah, I can see
They
that. And
they might
plus
have just filmed it.
it makes for a extra on the DVD. Alternate ending, he wins.
I guess. Although the alternate ending where Rocky wins, can you imagine the aftermath that would have happened to Mason Dixon at the end of that, where he loses
Yeah.
a straight up decision to Rocky Balboa? His career's over.
He returned to Russia and killed himself.
Yeah. No, dude, like Dixon, his career is just he's a laughing stock.
Yeah.
You got to believe that even in winning, there's been serious tangible damage done to Dixon's career because he couldn't put down like a 60-year-old man.
Yeah.
That's kind of embarrassing.
But he was huge.
He was huge, but that's how it ends.
Oh, the
Rocky,
the scene in the I like the last shot in it in the
yeah,
cemetery where Rocky turns around and waves back at the tombstone and such. I like that. I mean, I mean, I love the franchise to death, and that last shot there with him turning around and waving, like that got me. I really liked that.
yeah, and again, Rocky, the Rocky series is really at its best when it's a formulaic movie. I mean, the first Rocky was. I mean, you watch Cinderella Man, you watch any one of these boxing movies, you
Yeah.
could write these in your sleep.
Uh-huh.
They all follow the same basic points.
Yeah.
Um, but it really is just the quality of the acting and the depth of the characters that really drove the first Rocky home and won it an Oscar.
Yeah.
Whether it was better than Network or Taxi Driver, it's debatable, but um, you can really see why people loved it so much. Is it rewatchable in the same way that like Rocky 4 is? No. I don't know what that says about me, but
No, I agree with you, man. I do, because like I said earlier, if you ask me which one I've seen the most, it's probably four. I mean, especially since I was a kid. But even when I do like a Rocky marathon,
mm,
uh, I'm sitting there and in my head, I am kind of like, oh man, I can't wait till we get to four.
okay, like I can't wait till we get to the one with Mr. T in it. That's awesome.
I know. I can't wait till we get to Thunder Lips and Mr. T and the robot and Ivan Drago.
I think we've seen way too many bad movies.
Yeah, we grew up on this shit, man.
Oh man.
But which one do you like? Which one would you say is the best?
Um, Objectively one.
Yeah, I
I would
agree.
put Rocky Balboa as number two, as the number two. Honestly, I said I do like the series, but I find the characterization of Rocky in two to be really insufferable. How he really should lose that fight.
Uh-huh.
Just in terms of sheer training. I don't know why it bothers me, but it does.
I can see it doesn't bother me, but it doesn't really bother me. But I see what you're saying. I do see
Um,
what you're saying.
Three is really frustrating as well because Rocky is again a complete idiot
Yeah.
where he doesn't take Clubber Lang seriously at all. Like, and even though
Slow.
even though Mickey is telling him like outright, he's like, if you've never listened to me once in your life, Rock, you gotta listen to me now. This
Yeah.
guy'll tear your fucking head off.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, Rick, you're just joking. He's like, I'm not joking with you,
I'm
Rock.
not joking with you, Rock.
For Christ's sake, Rock.
Oh, big, you funny.
He's like, you're so funny, Mick.
God
Are
damn
you drunk, Mick? I don't drink, Rock. But he's like, he basically gets on his knees and begs Rocky. He's like, please, Rock,
Yeah.
would you please take this guy seriously? And Rocky's like, I'm gonna train. Don't worry, I'm gonna train. And he kind of sets up like a dunk, like a ball pit and a dunking booth, and like
Yeah.
it's fucking ridiculous. And of course he loses. I mean, it does build up his comeback. How the
Oh
whole
yeah.
story is about him regaining his eye of the tiger.
Gotta get the
Um,
edge. I the
you know,
tiger.
when you fought me, I saw something I never saw in another competitor. It's the edge, the eye of the tiger, Rock. I had
Yeah,
to
because
tell
all
you.
all that stuff, with him not listening to Mick and everything is the first act of the movie.
Yeah. So I don't know. It really it's just the kind of I guess Rocky 2 for me is the one that frustrates me the most. It's not the worst, but when he blows all his money on a car and a jacket
Yeah.
and his wife is pregnant for God's sake and
So we're gonna have to drive you to the hospital.
he's like, "We gotta drive you to the hospital in my convertible." Like, isn't this nice? It's got cruise control. It's got a CD player. And so like she goes in a coma, and the doctor's like, "I'm afraid your wife may not make it, but if you had $37,000, we might be able to afford this procedure." He's like, "Oh shit, I bought a car."
If only I had a robot with artificial intelligence.
What if I could still hawk my jacket? No, what am I talking? That's crazy talk.
That's crazy talk. Damn, I look good. I agree with you. Objectively speaking, the first one and the sixth one are the best ones. I also in this one more thing about the sixth one too is that the relationship with he and his son is a lot handled a lot better in the sixth one than it was with the fifth one.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but my least favorite is the fifth one, and
yeah.
I
It's hard to argue with that, just because there's really not much to it, and when you get right down to it, it's unnecessary.
yeah
You knew they couldn't top Rocky 4 in terms of just ridiculousness,
yeah
and you knew they weren't going to try.
uh-huh
But it was clear that Stallone's heart really wasn't in it.
yeah it was out of all of them. I mean the fourth one is a summer movie, you know? It's a popcorn flick, more so out of all of them.
I guess my closing thoughts on the series is where, like I said in the beginning, you really can't consider any of the sequels except Rocky Balboa to even really be in the same continuity. And by that I mean it's well established in the first movie that Rocky is not a good boxer.
Yeah.
He's not that big. Even at the age of 30 in that movie, he's pretty washed up
Mm-hmm.
to the point where Mick is even telling him to retire in that movie. Um, so when he becomes the world heavyweight champion in the second movie,
Yeah.
Carl Weathers, he trains harder, he's in better shape, he's a better boxer.
Mm-hmm.
Frankly, Rocky has no business beating him in that movie.
Yeah.
And so from then on, the fights he get into just throw credulity out the window, because he's fighting Clubber Lang, he's fighting these enormous black motherfuckers
Yeah.
who by all right should eat his heart.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much heart you have. Mr. T was fucking
Oh
huge.
god, yeah.
You
Pain.
know, Dolph Lundgren had a foot and a half and 85 pounds on this guy.
He had a foot and a half on Mr. T.
So I mean, there's really no business. I mean, there's underdog, and then there's heart of a champion. There's eye of the tiger, and then there's Dolph Lundgren would kick your fucking ass.
But man, the fourth one is fun though.
Oh, it is. Oh, it is.
Oh
But
my
you
god.
see, but it's just you really it's actually just very hard to believe that Rocky Balboa could take any of these guys, because really when you get down to it, Rocky Balboa, Stallone is about 5'8",
Yeah. Yeah, he's
two
just
hundred
like I said,
pounds.
a little bit taller than I am.
I really doubt he even qualifies as a heavyweight. Um,
And that's why, yeah, the first one and the sixth one are the ones out of the whole series that are based in any kind of reality. You know what I mean? A final thought that I have on the series is that what I do love about the entire series is that, it can there's entries in it that can speak to whatever mood that I'm in. Am I in the mood for something really heartfelt, serious, very
sure, yeah, you're right.
emotional? One, six, even some aspects of two. Um, am I in the mood for camp, pure '80s greatness? You know, uh,
It does run the gamut. You're right.
yeah. Then you got three and especially four, and then even like, uh, I got nothing to do. I'm kind of bored. Well, I haven't seen Rocky 5 in a while. All right.
Well, again, this is where I go back to the Rambo series, which parallels the Rocky series in a lot of ways. It doesn't quite run the emotional gamut. It kind of does, where it actually starts out very tragic,
Yeah.
and then it gets kind of really silly. But
Well, yeah.
I want what they want.
I
But
would.
every guy
They
who died
would.
in the mud and spilled their guts once.
War's over, Johnny.
Nothing is over.
Nothing.
Nothing. I love that scene where it's actually kind of it. Stallone really does turn in a great performance, but it really is. He really does turn into just blubbering at the end of First Blood, where he's like, and then my friend, his kid comes up to him and he goes, shiny, shiny, and he opens up the box and it blows off and his guts all over the place. And like,
He does that in the third Rocky movie too. And I was watching that the other day, and what he's saying to I couldn't quite make out
oh, to
exactly.
Mick, he's like, I love you, Mick.
Yeah, I couldn't quite make out exactly what he was saying there, but yeah, I like I said, I love Stallone so much. I have always found him to be very underrated as an actor, and I use examples like the end of that scene, that really emotional scene at the end of First Blood and
Oh
Rocky
yeah.
One and Rocky Six as examples.
Did you see where they used in John Rambo? Did you see where they used the alternate ending of First Blood,
I did see that. I did
where
notice
he's
that.
kind of like wrestling in his head whether or not he wants to go back and find the missionaries
Yeah.
in Burma, and he's like I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. He's having like a nightmare where Troutman is all talking like you. When are you gonna finally understand you're a full-blooded combat soldier, and like when are you gonna come full circle?
Yeah.
And so like he's kind of having these war flashbacks, and all of a sudden they show the scene where he like has Troutman shoot him in the chest,
Yeah.
and I was like, that was awesome.
Right.
Where he's like they used it, and it actually makes a whole lot of sense. Where he's like his life could have turned out so easily that way.
Hmm.
That's the nightmares where his torment could have ended with that scene. I'm like, awesome.
They had a theatrical screening here, probably about a year ago, I think, where they showed First Blood in the theaters here in town, and they showed it with the alternate ending.
In the theater with the alternate. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, they showed it with the alternate ending. So I'm just imagining somebody going to see it not knowing that the alternate ending is attached to it.
Oh, I'd go. That would have been me. I would have gone there, and
Yeah.
then I'd see a preview for Rambo First Blood Part Two, and I'd be like, wait, what? What the fuck?
Is it a prequel? Like missing in action too?
That would have blown my mind. Anyway, I guess that brings our discussion of Rocky to a close. Any questions from the chat room about Rocky?
I'm gonna get hang on just a sec. I'll be right back.
I hardly consider myself an expert on Rocky. Before I just felt like talking about the series because every one of these movies is so different,
Oh yeah,
but so there's a lot to talk about in these movies.
I gotta refresh your stream here so I can see the chat. I just got my Rocky box set. Do any of these have like commentaries or anything on them?
I don't know. I never thought to listen.
Oh, let me pause here. There we go. I had your stream on in the background. um, it doesn't really look. These are.
Yeah, I got like a 6 pack that has Rocky in the flag on the box.
And I'm trying to get the chat room and the.
How did I like Mason Dixon's trainer speech in Six? It was good. I mean, I actually thought that made Dixon rather sympathetic, where he's kind of trying to find his roots. Like Dixon finally realizes he's kind of surrounded by sycophants who want to protect him, and it kind of brings him back down to earth. Trainer speech, which is very good.
What's the link again to your stream?
Justin.tv/Spoony1. What do I think was the best part of Rocky 4, as ridiculous as it was? Um, the part that has me smiling the most is the Living in America dance sequence where Apollo is strutting to the ring. I
Mine,
love that. I love that scene.
mine would probably be. I love, I love the "There's no easy way out" montage.
Yeah, yeah. And I always do scream out with Rocky, Drago!
Drago! gonna.
Honest to God, if I could be any other man on earth, that would be Apollo Creed.
Fuck yeah, man.
The
Try to
Italian Stallion.
trying to the chat window isn't.
See, the Hearts on Fire montage never really gripped me the way the even getting Gotta Fly Now. I always loved the Gotta Fly Now, and I love when they brought it back for Rocky Balboa.
Yeah, me too.
Because I never really liked Eye of the Tiger as much as everyone else did. I liked it, but
I
not, I wasn't like
I loved
I wasn't like I wasn't singing along every time it came on the radio. I was just kind of like, okay.
it. Oh, I love that fucking song. What was the other one for Burning Heart?
Hearts on Fire.
Hearts on Fire. Ah, there goes the chat room. Okay, now I can read it.
No Easy Way Out. What was No Easy Way Out?
Who sang No Easy Way Out?
No. What movie was that?
Oh, four.
Four? It had before, yeah.
That was four when he's driving around in the car and it.
Oh yeah, and they show scenes that was actually the Drago training montage, really, where he's kind of driving around and you see
Yeah.
Drago all pumping iron and there's wires all attached to him. He's like,
There's no easy way out. Love that fucking song. Yeah, Rocky Four is. I actually read somewhere that an extra montage was added to four because the runtime on the movie came up pretty short, and even
there's really not much to that movie, you know.
the movie is like almost exactly 90 minutes.
What was Drago Dolph's last movie? No, Dolph's been in tons of shit.
Um, Rocky Four was like his, I want to say his second, because up until then, I think really the only thing he did was a small part in A View to a Kill.
Yeah,
Um, he had to audition out of like 1,000 guys to play Ivan Drago.
yeah. My favorite Dolph movie. I don't know.
I
This
love
is
The Punisher.
this is gonna make me sound bad because I love a lot of Dolph movies. Universal Soldier.
I love Universal Soldier. I'm with you on that. I love it. I mean, my favorite Dolph movie is probably The Punisher. Um, but I do love Universal. I can hear you.
Soldier.
He is having the time of his fucking life in that movie.
Masters of the Universe. Hell yeah.
That's probably what Jillian would say.
Yeah. I loved the guy who played Skeletor. What the fuck was his
That
name?
was Frank Langella, wasn't it?
Yeah, Frank Langella. I loved him as the fucking
Yeah.
Skeletor. Was Apollo's death in Rocky Four necessary in the grand scheme of the series? No.
No, I mean it was necessary to that movie. I guess. I mean, but that movie itself isn't really necessary to the entire series. Um,
Honestly, that scene kind of smacked of kind of 1980s cliche, where like
yeah.
every Death Wish movie, Bronson had to have someone get killed to make it personal.
Well, and it's also it's also like the formula for the third one, where a
They
fight
had to kill Mick.
a fight happens, person loses, person dies, and then Rocky. Then there's a second fight at the end.
I honestly think it would have been a lot better. I guess they had to come up with a reason where uh, they they wouldn't let Drago fight in the United States for the heavyweight championship, so he had to go to Russia.
Yeah,
So he had to kill him. I don't know that that was completely necessary. If I were writing it, I don't know that I would have done that.
you
Just
easily could
because,
have had like maybe it puts him in a coma or
yeah, he beats him so bad he's in a coma, or he beats him too, like the maybe the referee stops the match.
yeah,
Like it's a TKO. The referee stops the match, but Drago just keeps pounding on him,
yeah,
and he puts him in the hospital, basically in a body cast.
yeah.
So like he just beats the shit out of Apollo,
I think that
and
would.
so for Apollo's sake, he goes to fight him. You don't. Did you need to kill him? I don't think so.
Yeah, I agree with that. And even if he put him in the hospital or something like that, you could have honestly that I think that would have worked better dramatically because you could have had a lot more scenes with both the Rocky and Apollo character.
Yeah, you could have had Apollo kind of give a monologue where he's just barely hanging on to life,
Yeah,
and he's like Stallion, you gotta you gotta do it for me, Stallion.
I was just
Like
I was just kidding when I said don't throw in the towel.
he's like, what the? Why didn't you throw in the towel?
You told me not to.
But yeah, but Stallion, for Christ's sake, man, he was killing me.
You said no matter what.
How am I supposed to read signals? You speak in code, Apollo.